Hello and welcome to Embracing Change. We are going to spend a few minutes talking through the consultant's report to look for some strategies to build a new company culture for American Canadian media that incorporates the best of what both companies brought to the merger. The first thing we should do is acknowledge some issues that the American Canadian Media Company faces post-merger. Performance has been sluggish. A certain amount of lag was expected during the changeover, but the time for that transitioning has passed, and ACM is still waiting to see real evidence of new growth. Morale has been an issue on both sides of the border. For the most part, employees were tentatively willing to ride through the transition and see what comes, but without definitive goals to mark the change as a success, morale has been stagnant, and in some cases declining. Along with that, stress levels are on the rise for employees. A change event is a naturally stressful situation. Change brings challenges, and it takes a certain amount of energy to deal with the uncertainty. New roles, new business structures, new leadership, these things bring stress that needs to be addressed. Some employees are actually resistant to change. The idea of having to learn new things and adopt new practices or report to different people may seem like a lot of work for our employees. They may not fully understand why the change was made or how it can benefit ACM and themselves. It just seems difficult or frightening or not worth their time. The last issue we need to address with the new company culture is the bringing together of two different cultures. Each former business had its own mission and value system, not to mention its own nationality. Now that we are under one roof, so to speak, we need to find a way to bridge those gaps. To be clear, what we're really trying to do here with this change is to create a unified culture that incorporates the values and vision of our new unified corporation. Henry Ford said, "Coming together is a beginning, keeping together is progress, working together is success." Considering some of the problems we've mentioned, it might seem like the solution should focus on improving performance by looking at metrics, addressing quality, pushing revenue. But what we've found is that companies who have a strong performance environment are only able to sustain it if their organization is also strong. And an organization is made up of people. If we can nurture our employees so they feel satisfied and committed, we are on the right track to sustaining success long term. There are some key things we can do to manage culture, and ACM's leadership will need to get really good at doing them. One factor for a strong culture is using empathy. Leaders need to be able to look at things from another person's point of view. This is the basis of healthy communication, and it makes it possible to start sharing ideas and information. If people are closed off and not communicating, it will be hard to get them on board with any kind of change. Leaders also need to have a firm understanding of ACM's vision. We will need to look and see if there is a consensus on what that vision is. Integrating deeply held values into the company vision will help ensure we get it right. Meaningful interaction between management and employees is a surprisingly effective way to support company culture. When leaders spend time with their employees, getting to know them, a connection is born. Fostering that connection is the way we build teams who work well together. Lastly, focusing on incentives for high performance rather than negative consequences for low performance is a valuable strategy. Looking for the negative and pointing it out when you find it is demoralizing for everyone involved because it focuses on failure. When you start looking for the positive, you motivate people to do their best and be recognized. Positive recognition, especially in front of peers, inspires employees to do more that they will be noticed for. To move forward through this change, ACM can adopt two different kinds of strategies. There are structural change strategies that shape the organization in healthy ways, like managing stress, setting expectations, and clarifying roles. We can also use behavioral strategies, like team building, goal setting, and performance management. Behavioral strategies are designed to get people moving in the direction we need them to go. Both kinds of change strategies help the organization adapt to change. A healthy organization is strong, but it also needs to be flexible and willing to adapt to internal and external forces that affect the business. A lot of different things can act as barriers to change. Because we are focusing on building a new culture, which is foundationally based on people and how they act, we need to understand how some people might act as barriers to change. It can be very difficult to move when some people on the team refuse to come along or even pull in the opposite direction. People who are resistant to change might not like how the changes impact them. Are they going to have to learn something new? What if the company moves them to a new role and then lets them go? These people find it easier to stay where they're at. Hesitation can be based on a fear of the unknown. This happens when change processes are not communicated clearly enough ahead of time. Some employees adopt a management knows best perspective, thinking they better not ask questions or they'll get in trouble. These employees need to know their input is not only welcome, but it's necessary to build a culture that includes everyone's voice. Some people just prefer to stay with the status quo. To them, everything is fine. They don't see why a change is necessary. This comes from a lack of understanding. If they don't know why a change was necessary, then we did not do a very good job of communicating the need for change. Overcoming barriers to change is something we can teach our leaders to do. Managers need to take proactive steps to overcome. Surprisingly, the first step is not to talk, but to listen. Employees need to know you care what they think. This is how you build a relationship of trust. They learn that they can trust you and your motives. Once employees are listening back and communicating with you, it is time to create a sense of urgency. Every time a question is asked, why are we doing this? Leaders will need to have an answer that explains the importance of making the change. When employees understand that, you can get their commitment to working within the change. Be sure you prepare them ahead of time using all of these steps so that the trust circle remains unbroken and employees continue to ask questions and commit to the urgency of the change. The best company cultures have employees who are empowered and engaged with making the company's vision a reality. There are a lot of pieces to this, but we'll go over them quickly. Communication is at the center of everything we do, and that includes creating empowered employees. A healthy flow of dialogue should exist between all levels of management, peers, and subordinates. Empowering employees may also take training. They may need to learn more so they can contribute more. We will also need to delegate authority so they can develop and become more useful in their roles. It is important to speak confidence in your employees' abilities, confidence to succeed, and confidence to learn from mistakes. Speak on the positive. You will see it grow. You can also empower employees with cross-training, giving them new skills, by providing resources so they can make their own decisions and handle projects or problems themselves, and giving them authority to do so. The key point is to create effective interactions between management and employees. ACM will thrive when empowered employees take ownership of their interactions and contributions to the business success. These employees become vested in the organization because they pour their heart and soul into making it successful. That is a recipe for coming to care about something. It is a natural phenomenon we can leverage in the business world. Empowered employees are loyal and they embrace change. We do want to talk about how to manage workplace stress. On the left, you can see some factors that cause workplace stress. For example, employees may not understand their role in the organization. They may be frustrated by a lack of resources. If they've asked for something and the answer is, we're waiting for corporate, After a while, it starts to feel like corporate doesn't care to support them. Poor work relationships between coworkers or employees and managers can be another big source of stress. In the middle, you can see what problems each of these issues can cause. Lack of understanding about how a person should carry out his job will make it difficult for him to work properly. When employees don't have access to training, support, funds, or other resources necessary to do their jobs, they tend to tune out. They don't want to be at work, and they might find another job. Unhealthy relationships at work are devastating to morale on a personal level and a departmental level too. Hurt feelings, resentment, and frustration affect morale and destroy any culture around them. So, what do we do? Provide training and development opportunities. Listen for what resources are missing and find a way to get them. And make sure your employees know how to access them. And finally, communicate. Build strong relationships where people feel appreciated and liked. All of these steps lead to a reduction in workplace stress. In conclusion, our ultimate goal is to create a system of high-performing teams. To do that, we can use several different system interventions. System 4 management is a process of creating an environment where empowered employees participate in decision-making and manage themselves. Management cares deeply about its employees in a System 4, and the employees know it. They feel it. This motivates them to work harder and achieve even more success. We can also do some training on conflict resolution and goal setting and total quality management. Each of these intervention processes takes a specific aspect of organizational behavior and makes it more effective, weeding out unhealthy practices and making it stronger. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.